Hello once again everyone. Finally it's time to put out the video that I've been wanting to put out for at least 3 or 4 months. It's the one about the custom conversions in the configurator for real sim control or SimVimX. So just remember there's a few things I have to put out right off the bat here. You only need to do this if the default assignments for the aircraft that you are flying don't work. If you find, for example, that you put the landing gear switch and you go in and you're sure that it's configured properly, that you connected it properly to your setup, and you throw the switch and on your particular aircraft it doesn't work, then you might need to do a custom conversion. But in my experience, like on every airplane that I fly, the landing gear switch has always worked. The parking brake switch has always worked. There's a lot of them that work right off the bat by default. This is only for specific things that have custom commands or data refs that you might have to do this. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna show you right now. I'm gonna use the I think is a 6 things that we were talking about in my previous video about using the data ref tool, and I'm gonna show you how to put them into the configurator, and then I'm gonna show you in the default Cessna 172. I'm gonna show them working, and then I'm gonna go into my Airfoillabs Cessna 172, which has a bunch of custom data refs and commands, and a lot of the functions don't work. So for those particular ones, we have to create a conversion, so that it can work with the same buttons and switches, and then all the functions will work and we can fly without having to be touching the virtual cockpit with my the mouse. And that's another thing, that this software, Real Sim Control and SimVimX, is really designed to work for people who want to build an entire cockpit and don't need to have the virtual panel in their monitor. Like me, I do not have a whole complete cockpit replica of an airplane. So I just basically, I do fly with a virtual panel on my monitor. I just want to eliminate as much mouse clicking as I can. That's the reason why I have, I want to have certain switches and buttons. Like for example, for the timer, like if I'm practicing IFR and I want to start the timer and reset it and everything, I don't want to have to be fumbling with a mouse and then going over to touch the timer, the clock on the virtual panel. I would like to just have some buttons so that I can start and reset and start the timer again without having to use my mouse, but still be able to see the timer in my virtual panel. So that's why my case scenario might be a lot different than somebody who's actually building an entire replica of a cockpit. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that as you go through these videos and everything, I don't want you to think that what I do here for my custom airplanes and because of my particular setup that you have to do this or everybody has to do this. This is only if your case requires you to do this and if you need it. So when you go to the configurator, obviously I'm gonna pretend that this is gonna be the first time somebody's looking at this and walk you through every step of the way. Okay, so we go to the configurator here, and obviously if it's your first time, I would really highly advise that you read through all the pages of information where it talks about all this thing, and everything is very, very nicely explained in the web pages. But for those of you who still need extra help, by seeing an actual demonstration of how it's done, that's the reason why I make these videos. Eventually you will need to kind of understand how all this stuff works, and if you want to really take advantage of making everything work. But for the purposes of now, we're just gonna, like I said, assign those things that I mentioned to the default Cessna 172. So I'm gonna pretend we're starting a brand new configuration. Okay, so this little button right here we are going to use for the autopilot button. So let's go ahead and go to the autopilot. I think that would be under here, and it's basically just autopilot on, which on the airliners is usually called a command or something. So we're gonna go ahead and select that, and we want the switch. Right now we're not worried about the LED, we just want the switch. And like I said, this momentary switch is gonna be connected on multiplexer. Oh well, we need to tell it that we have a multiplexer on number 8. So let's go ahead and cancel that, and we're just going to click number 8, and we're going to put an input multiplexer there. And then we can go ahead and click on this command. Actually, this one is a different autopilot one, so we're going to go ahead and put this one here, and we're going to put it on pin number 5. So there it is, autopilot mode. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if this one was any different, but let me see. I'll just go ahead and put that one on 6, even though I don't have anything. Okay, it's 2 different ones. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're only going to use one of them, but I'm just going to leave them both. Actually, I'll just take it off. This one right here. Alright, so now we're going to go to the encoder, which is going to be for the, I think it was for the true airspeed adjustment. So if we go to the flight instruments here, this is going to be the airspeed thing, and we're going to use this one right here. This little knob right here is the one we're going to use, and it's going to be a rotary encoder, and we're going to put that on 0 and 1 on this multiplexer number 8. Okay, the next one we're going to use this one right here to adjust the artificial horizon little marker here. So we're going to click that one. It's going to be the rotary knob, which I think is the same thing as, yeah, it's an encoder. You can see right here that it's an encoder. And we're going to put that on pins 13 and 14 because that's where I have it connected there. Alright, what else was I going to do? Okay, we have this little simple on and off switch. I believe we were gonna use that one for the alternate static air. So in order to do that one, we're going to go to the airplanes here. We're going to go to the Cessna 172, and then we'll hit the alternate static valve right here. And then we'll put that one on, I think that was on pin number 53, directly on the Arduino. So we'll put that right here. And the next one we're going to do is the mixture. We actually need the mixture. So engine 1 mixture, and that is a potentiometer on A0. So we're going to put that right here. And the last one is a fuel tank selector, which is for the on and off, on toggle switch. So we select the 3-position switch. It's going to be on A4 and A5 because that's where I have them. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I think all our things are done. So we're just going to go ahead and save the configuration file. And remember, the configuration file needs to be saved in the SimVimX folder. And it needs to be called data. Because if it's not called data, it won't read it. It won't pick it up. So just call it data.config. If you already have a previous one called data, then you need to overwrite it, you know, and just save the new one. So since I had erased my original one, I'm just going to call it data and save it. So now we're good here. So we'll come over to the simulator here, and as you can see, you know, we have version 1.0.86 of the plugin right now. So we're gonna just go ahead and reload the configuration file because I didn't have one and now I do. So we'll wait a little while for this thing to connect. And actually what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna remove myself from the picture here, and I am gonna put the actual camera view. Alright, so now if I can't really see it right there, I'm gonna bring it over here. So you can see that now we have 6 inputs and 0 outputs. So those are exactly the 6 inputs that I put in there. So we can go ahead and try them now since we already have them assigned. Alright, so let's go ahead and see if everything's working the way it should now. So the first thing we're going to test is the airspeed, the true airspeed adjustment here. So that would be this encoder right here. So as I move it, you can see that it is moving. It's working good. Alright, the second one that we're going to try is this artificial horizon adjustment that adjusts the little airplane wings here. So that should be this encoder. And yes, it's working. It's moving up and down. Oh, one thing I also should have shown that I like to sometimes do when I'm doing these things is I like to look at the input options, just so that you can see that, you know, which one is getting activated when I'm moving it, so you can see the assignment that it has to that particular knob or switch or whatever. So that's good right there. Now let's go ahead and look at the autopilot. Yeah, it looks good right there. So I'm gonna turn it on. It looks like, yeah, well, it has CWS right there. And then I took it off. I pressed it again, and so it is making the noise there. Maybe I should have used the other one that's just called autopilot command. But anyway, so you can see that it's working. It's doing something in there. So that's fine. Now let's go ahead and do the alternate static air. That would be right here. So that would be this switch right here. So, oh yeah, it's moving. You can barely see it from this angle, right? But because it's kind of, but you can see that it's moving right there. This little one right here. All right, so that's working fine. The mixture, that's going to be this and this potentiometer right here. So let's just go ahead and see. Yeah, it's moving. So that's working fine. And the last one I believe that we have is the fuel tank selector. So that would be this switch right here. So it goes to the center, and then it goes. So obviously right now it's backwards, right? So because I have it, let's say you had already mounted this. I believe I talked about this on the other video. So if you had already mounted this in your panel and you couldn't move it, you see how right now it's on the left, but the pointer over there is on the right. And when I go to the middle, it actually goes left. And then if I go to the right, it goes that way. So you can actually just click this little inversion thing right here, and you can save it again, and then it will be the right way. So now when you go to the left, it goes left, and when you go to the right, it goes right. So that's one way to do it. You know, if, I mean, obviously you can also just swap the wires over here, you know, just swap them and that'll be the same thing. Or you could just turn the switch around and that would be the same thing. But this little inversion thing is really helpful if you already have mounted it in your setup and you don't want to disassemble it to turn it around, or if your wiring is soldered, you know, permanently, which you should never do until you're sure everything is working correctly. So that would be very helpful right there. All right, so that's it for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and load up now in my Airfoillabs C172, and we're gonna see, you know, what happens if when we started on that one, if everything is gonna work the way it should. Okay, so now we're back in the Airfoillabs C172, which is the one that I prefer to fly because it looks much nicer, and in my opinion it has a much better flight model. Except I've been having a little bit of problem with the trim. It seems like after the version 1.9 update it's not behaving very good. But anyway, so let's go ahead and look at all these things again. I'll put my camera back in here. Obviously you guys saw it working a little while ago, right? And we still have this right here, the input options, so that we can see that, you know, that we're actually touching the right things. So we're going to try the true airspeed one first here. So that was this one right here. So yeah, you can see that I am manipulating it, and you can see that it shows up right here, but nothing is moving here. So now we're going to do the artificial horizon here, which is this encoder. So yeah, what a surprise, huh? It doesn't work. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go to the autopilot real quick here. Oops. So let's go ahead and the autopilot is on this particular airplane, is this one right here. So let's push the button. Nope, nothing's happening. Interesting. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and try, I guess we'll try the alternate static air thingy. So that would be this switch right here. Nothing. And you can see that I'm pushing the right one right here. Alright, so now we're going to do the mixture, which is the potentiometer right here. Okay, wow, that's an interesting one. The mixture actually works. You know, and this is only a big deal for those of us who use the virtual panel, like I said, because as you can see, the mixture is not moving, but you can definitely see that it's having an effect. If you look at the RPMs, you know, they are almost, if I go back far enough, the engine will die. So this is one of those cases where the data ref and all that does actually move the real X-plane setting, but it doesn't move the illustration of the button or the knob or whatever in the cockpit. So obviously, you know, if I am also running with a virtual cockpit and I just happen to be looking at, you know, the mixture, even though if I have the mixture out in my real cockpit, you know, I wouldn't need to look at that. But it would be kind of like, you know, oh, my mixture is all the way in, and then you look at your actual knob outside and you say, oh no, it's not, it's, I do have it leaned a little bit. So this is one of those things where, yeah, you know, it's doing what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't do the animation. So we're gonna see what we can do about that. All right, and the last but not least, we're gonna do the fuel tank switch selector here. So we're gonna flip it to one side, and it's not moving at all, of course, as I expected. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. I mean, as you obviously just saw right now, this airplane has a ton of custom commands and data refs, and nothing works on it by default. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back to the configurator, and we are going to assign. We're gonna basically change all those things to the custom commands and data refs. So I'm gonna be jumping back and forth between the configurator and the simulator so that you can see me doing it, you know, as I go along. This is gonna end up being a very long video, but hey, what a surprise, huh? All right, so now that we're here on the configurator again, and we have our data file, basically we got to go to aircraft conversions up here, and then we're gonna go to the converter. And remember, in order for you to be able to do this, you need to be logged in. So you need to apply for them to allow you. Basically, you just join the community and you ask them, you know, for permission to access the configurator. And then once you have your username and password, you know, you log in, and then you'll be able to see the actual conversion stuff. So we're gonna start a brand new conversion. So this conversion, we're just gonna call it Airfoillabs Cessna 172, and you can call it whatever you want, you know. So I'm just gonna do it like that, and actually, you know, I'll just put an underscore here, and that's gonna be the name of my configuration file. Okay, and remember, when you save this file, it needs to go inside the aircraft folder, not inside the SimVimX plugin folder. That is very important. And when you, as you start going back and forth between opening the data file and opening the conversion file, you need to make sure that you are going to the right folders. Okay, so we're going to start a new conversion. So right now, as you can see, there's nothing under here except the name of the file that you gave it. So now we're going to open up our data file that we're going to use to make some conversions. So basically, you just go to here, you open up the data file that you're using for this airplane, and you open it, and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's one of them is not there. I thought we had 6 of them. Oh yeah, the mixture. The mixture for some reason is not here. Okay, that's interesting. Let me look at my configuration file. Yeah, it is there. Okay, so I'm adding this little section here after the fact because originally, as you just saw, the engine mixture wasn't showing up right here as available to convert. So I emailed Vlad, and he right away noticed that there was something wrong with the website script. So he fixed it, and then I tried it again, and it is working now. So you're going to be able to see, you know, that I also assign a custom data ref to this parameter or this keyword here. So you're not going to see engine mixture as I go through all the different ones, you know, in the list right here, but I am gonna insert it when I am doing the actual conversion. So what we need to do, like first of all, we're gonna do the one for the true airspeed knob, right? So when you click on it, this is where you can select if you want up and down commands or data ref, and this is where you're gonna use, you know, what you learned in the previous video about using the data ref tool. But just in case you don't remember, we're gonna go ahead and go back to the simulator here, and we're gonna open the data ref tool, and we're just going to basically search for TAS or true airspeed. So when we move it, you can see that it's moving right here, and it's this is the one that is using. So okay, so remember, you need to find out what its maximum and minimum figures are, and also what its step is. So right now, if we go, you know, all the way down to one end is 0, and if you go all the way up to the other end, it looks like it's 100. So 0 to 100, and it looks like it goes down 0.25 every time you move it. So right now we're gonna copy the name of the data ref here, and we're gonna go back to the other page over here, and we're gonna paste it in here. So that makes it a lot easier than having to actually type it, because if you mess up in one letter, or if it's not the same case, like capital letters or whatever, it may not work. So right here where it says increment by this value, that's where you put the 0.25, and then this is optional if you want to put it, but we knew that it was 0 to 100, so we can just do that, comma separated the minimum and maximum values, and that's it for that one. So right now, as soon as I click confirm, since I made a change, it's going to allow me to download the file now if I wanted to. But let's go ahead and do, and now you see, now that we changed this one, it's no longer over here, and you can always click on them over here and make any changes that you want to. So let's go ahead and do the autopilot mode. So that's going to be, if we go back to the simulator, let's go ahead and delete this, and let's go to the autopilot. And I already know this particular airplane, almost everything that this airplane uses, it starts with 172, which makes it a little bit easier. So we can go ahead and put changes, and we can just put both data ref and commands, and actually we can put auto just to narrow it down. And so when we push the autopilot button here, there's that command right there. So that's good because it's a command actually. So we can just go ahead and copy that one there, and we go back to the screen over here, and it's a command, so we just leave it as command, and we paste it right there, and that's it. So we can go ahead and save that one. The artificial horizon pitch reference, let's go back to the simulator. Remember, this is the one I had a little bit of a hard time with last time, so I think if I use the capital AH, because I already know that it was that, and then if I move this, yeah, it's right there. So that's the one that I need. So once again, we need to find the minimum and the maximum, and if you remember, I believe it was -1 to 1. So -1 is the very bottom, and then 1 is the very top. It takes a very long time to get there here. And then the step, every time you move it, is 0.01. So remember that. So once again, make sure you copy the name. Then we could go back over here, and we can paste it. And the increment by this value, it was 0.01. And the limits are -1, 1. That's the lower and upper limits. So we can go ahead and save that one. The alternate static valve, let's go ahead and go back to the simulator, and maybe I should just move this one here. Well, one of the things I mentioned is that you can make this window however you want, as big as you want it. So alright, so let's go to the alternate static here, and let's just type static to help us narrow it down. So Yeah, if I move it, you can see right there that it's 172 panel actuator static air. So cool. All right, so let's go ahead and copy that one, and that is a data ref, and it's either 0 or 1 depending on if it's open or closed. So we're gonna go ahead and we already copied the name. We'll go back to the browser here, paste it in there, and it's a data ref, and it's just gonna be 0, 1. A lot of these things, you know, these are optional. Some of them work if you don't put anything, but some of them act weird, so it's probably better if you know them to put it in there. So go ahead and confirm that one. And the last one that we have is a fuel tank selector here. So we'll go back to the simulator. Now we'll type fuel, and then we'll look at the fuel tank selector here and move it. Alright, so it looks like we have a left and a right command, and we also have this data ref right here, which goes from -1 to 0 to 1. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and copy this one here. Oh, see, this is the cool thing I had mentioned before, that you can actually actuate the command so you can see what it does, so you can play around with it and see, you know. So let's go ahead and copy this one here, and we'll go back to the thing. So this one has up and down commands, so you're gonna basically paste that one there, and then we can paste the other one again and just change it to right. Just make sure that you you spell everything right. And it also, look, it also asks for a data ref for switch control position. So we can go back to the simulator, and we found that this 172/panel underscore actuators slash fuel tank select. So we'll copy that one, and we'll go back to the thing, and then we'll paste it in there, and it's asking for the center value. So obviously when it's in the center, it's 0, so we can go ahead and confirm it. We're going to go ahead and download the configuration file, the conversion file, and we're going to go, remember, to the aircraft folder. This one doesn't go in the SimVimX folder. So we go to my aircraft, Airfoillabs, Cessna 172, and you're just going to paste it in there. And if you notice, the name now has SimVimX underscore, and then the number you gave it, the name that you gave it, and then the AT. So do not remove this SimVimX, because it probably won't read it if you change the name. Okay, so make sure you leave that there. So you save it, and once you got it in there, we can go back to the simulator here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just reload the configuration file. And that's the cool thing about this, that you don't need to continuously be you know, doing this again, like disconnecting, shutting off X-Plane. You just reload the configuration file and you're good to go. Alright, so we have the 6 inputs and 0 outputs. So let me put my camera back here again, and you'll be able to see, you know, that I am manipulating the right controls. And now that we have changed it to basically be the custom commands and data refs, let's see what happens. So first things first, we're going to do the true airspeed here. So that was this one right here. Wow, look at that. What do you know? It's working. Well, you look at that. And one more thing, you know, you need to make sure that you put the correct type of encoder, and also if you want to put some speed, because right now you can see that it takes forever to move through here, right? But if I put a lot of speed and then I save and reconnect, you have to wait, of course, until it's connected again. So there, now we can do it, and now you can see that it moves a lot faster if you move it fast. You see that? So that's kind of cool that you can do that. Alright, so that's good. Now we're going to try the artificial horizon here, which should be this encoder. So let's do that. Wow, look, it's working. I wonder, I wonder why. Oh yeah, that's right. That's because this freaking airplane uses a lot of custom data refs and commands, huh? Alright, so you know what? This one is very slow, so I'm gonna go ahead and increase the speed as well on this one. Okay, it's already connected, huh? Look at that. Now it moves real fast. So you can go through it real fast. Alright, so that's working good too. Let's go ahead and we're gonna try the, I guess, the autopilot, huh? Alright, so we're gonna hit the autopilot button here. And yes, it works now. Look at that. So there, the autopilot's off. Now it's on. And if I click it again, it should give me that alarm and it should be off. Yep. So it's working now too. Let's go ahead and move over to the alternate static valve. So this little switch right here. Oops. Uh-oh. Let's see. That one's acting weird. It's acting really weird. So let's see what's going on with it here. If we go back to the data ref, I think I know what the problem is. Remember I told you yesterday there on the other video that there was two of them. So even though, yeah, see, they both turn to 0 and 1. Okay, so maybe it's gonna be this other one that has a V on it. So we'll mess around with that right now, because right now you can see that when I do it, it's like it goes on, but then it goes back to 0. So we'll try the other one. I think it was the other one. Okay, now here's the next little part that I'm inserting after the fact, after the engine mixture parameters was working for conversion. So basically, I think what he told me was that it wasn't recognizing the analog inputs. So it's working now, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. Okay, so as you can see, if I move my potentiometer here, it's not even doing anything now. I think before I noticed that it was moving it was having an effect on the actual mixture, so my RPMs were, you know, wavering up and down, but right now it's not even doing that, because I did change it back to engine mixture, and I believe the other one, it was on engine 1 mixture when the other time when I was trying it. So either way, it doesn't work. It doesn't move the knob, and it doesn't have an effect on the actual RPM either on the tachometer. So we're gonna go ahead and look for what data ref it is for that one here, and we're just gonna put mix, and we'll just do a data ref because I know that's a data ref, and we'll move it here and see what happens. Okay, so you can see we got 3 of them that are changing. This is a default basically from the simulator, and so are these right here. So the only one that's different is this one right here, which is 172 engine mixture ratio 0, and you can see that when I move it, that one changes. So I'm pretty sure if I go all the way back out, it's going to be 0, and if I go in, it's going to be 1. So that's going to be our parameters that we need to know. So we'll go ahead and copy the name of this, and then we'll go to the website, and you know, as you can see, we have it here available for conversion. So it is a data ref. There are certain things that are only going to be data refs. You know how on some of them we have options for commands and up and down commands and different things. There are certain things that are only going to be data refs. So we'll go ahead and delete that and put our value in there. And if you remember, the values are going to be 0, 1. 0 is when it's fully closed, and 1 is when it's full forward. So we'll go ahead and confirm it, and then we have them all in here now. So we'll download it again, and remember it has to go into the airplane folder. So we'll just overwrite the one we have now. Okay, now if we go back out to the simulator, we'll go ahead and reload the configuration again. Oop, and it changed. Okay, there we go. So now you can see that it's moving, it's working. the value is changing here in the data ref, and obviously the mixture is changing, and you can see that if we go back out enough, it'll start to kill the engine. So it works. This one has a lot of noise. So I believe it does say on the website that you can add some capacitors or something to make the noise less radical, because you can see that at certain positions it just has so much noise right there. I guess that's what happens when we buy cheap potentiometers. But anyways, the bottom line is it's working now, so we're able to show you that one as well. But in the meantime, we'll just do the fuel selector switch here, which is going to be this one right here. So yeah, look at that, center. So everything works now. So this is the thing that I want you guys to take out of this really good, that when you start a configuration file, first you make all the assignments the way, like if you're starting a brand new airplane or whatever, or if you already have a configuration file that you use with a lot of airplanes, but you try every one of your buttons and switches and encoders and everything, and make a note of which ones don't work. And those are the ones that you will need to do custom conversions for. You don't need to do custom conversion for all of them, only the ones that don't work, as I've showed here today. Like I said, the mixture one, it actually does affect the mixture, but the animation in the cockpit doesn't happen. That's the only thing. So anyway, we wanted to change this alternate static air one, right? Because it wasn't working correctly right now. So we're gonna go back to the website for now, and we're gonna click on the static valve here, and we're gonna go actually for a second, we're gonna go back to the simulator, and we're gonna get this one and copy that name, and then we'll go back to the, actually it's just adding the V at the end, _V. So or you know what, maybe another thing I can do if that doesn't work is get rid of the 0 and the 1. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it should be 1 and 0. Let's try that too. So now that we changed something, we can download it again, and once again we're going to put it in the aircraft folder under the same name right there, and then we can go back to the simulator and reload the configuration file, which also reloads the custom conversion file. Alright, so now let's go ahead and try that switch for the static. Yeah, you see that? Okay, so now the problem with doing this the way I did it right now, where I changed the numbers and also the data ref, is that I'm not going to really know which is the one that made the difference, which one made it work. But for all intents and purposes, it doesn't really matter, because the bottom line is that it's working now. So we can just leave it alone like that. Now, if I wanted to add, more custom conversions to this, I could just, go back to the website, and let's say that I had, like I said, one of those other configuration files. See, that one doesn't have anything that I can add. Let's go to this one here, which is my general one with a lot of things from my main computer. So right here, you could change the ones for the starter switches, the landing lights, the beacon lights, all kinds of stuff. So you can change a lot of them. And like I said, if that really only matters to people like me who still fly with the virtual panel, somebody who's not building an entire cockpit. I'm sorry if I'm repeating that over and over, but it's because I really have to make that point that, that if you are building an entire cockpit setup, an exact replica of a cockpit, you maybe don't need to worry about the animations on the screen the way I was just talking about with the mixture. Alright, so I think that's pretty much all I have for this video. Basically, it was just to give you guys a starting point on how to use the custom converter, and give you just examples of how each different type of either command or data ref has a different way of putting in the values and the data in there for the converter to work. So yeah, I think that for the most part, the most important thing is for you to actually see it in action working, and then I'm sure that from then on you can just use it for any other aircraft or any other specific keywords or parameters that do not work with the defaults, and then you can go ahead and use that with your custom commands or data refs. Alright, so hopefully this video was useful to many of you, and I'm really glad I got this one out of the way, because trust me, it's been burning me to try to make this video and release it. But so alright, well, thank you guys very much for watching, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.